Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cricket Rockstar Plus Show. I'm Tyrell Odin, your handsome, flamboyant cricket rockstar, and tonight we're gonna get on right to it. Group E came to a dramatic end today with two games simultaneously taking place at the same time, with Ecuador producing a shock 2-1 victory over four-time champions Germany, while Ivory Coast comfortably defeated Curaçao 2-0 to secure their place in the round of 32 for the first time. And even though Germany did drop points and suffer their first defeat of the tournament, they still finished top of Group E, while Ivory Coast joined them in the knockout stage after a compromising performance. But we're going to start with Ecuador versus Germany, because Germany entered the match knowing for a fact they already have qualified and knowing that they cannot afford to lose their first place position. But Ecuador, on the other hand, they came into this game knowing that a victory, an outright victory over Germany, would secure a place into the round of 32, as a draw wouldn't have been enough for the South American nation. They needed this result because they were under the pump, just like how South Africa was last night against Korea Republic. And the Ecuadorians rose to the occasion, taking the lead in the first half before Germany found an equalizer not too long after that. However, the South American nation refused to back down and struck again to secure a memorable 2-1 victory to keep its FIFA World Cup 2026 campaign alive, and more importantly, becoming one of the best third place teams to secure a place in the round of 32. That's because their goal difference is on the positive side and not on the negative. However, let me just share a bit of a timeline very quickly, because Ecuador, they opened up the scoring first, then Germany equalized before the Ecuadorians restored their lead and defended it brilliantly all the way to the very end. Final score, Ecuador 2, Germany 1. Very interestingly though, the Ecuadorians didn't have more possession than the Germans, because with regards to the possession, it favored in Germany. But Ecuador, they were very clinical with their chances and produced what has to be one of the shocks in the World Cup so far, because there have been already a couple of shocks in this competition. Remember, this was the same Ecuador side that was supposed to defeat Ivory Coast very comfortably, but in the end, Ivory Coast, in their fourth appearance at the World Cup, somehow stunned them in the final minutes of their first group game. And then two group games later, after that embarrassing result against Curaçao, they somehow find a way to get into the round of 32 in a how should I say it? In a loophole way. That's what I wanted to say. That's because FIFA, since expanding the World Cup from 32 to 48 teams, have now made sure that 8 other teams who had the best third place finish would reach the next round comfortably. But Ecuador, they had to play their best game of the tournament to somehow sneak 3 points and get into the next round via the third place route. Over in Philadelphia, Ivory Coast's new victory would guarantee qualification in second position, and they did deliver exactly that. The Elephants dominated the Blue Waves from the first half, with Nicolas Pepe scoring in the 7th minute before the Ivory Coast side added another goal after the break to complete a easy 2-0 victory. Curaçao, they did battle very hard but couldn't find a way to create enough clear opportunities against a very disciplined Côte d'Ivoire defense. Quick timeline, Nicolas Pepe opened up the scoring in the 7th minute, and come second half, Ivory Coast doubled the advantage before seeing out the victory with ease. Final score, Ivory Coast 2, Curaçao 0. This is Ivory Coast's second clean sheet of the competition. And more importantly, for the first time in their history, they have secured a place in the round of 32 as one of the second place teams. With those results in mind, Germany finished top of Group E despite losing their final match to Ecuador, while Ivory Coast claimed second place and booked their spot in the round of 32. Ecuador's famous victory over Germany wasn't enough to finish in automatical qualification places, while Curaçao's historic World Cup campaign comes to an end. But Curaçao's campaign will forever be remembered for how they hold Ecuador. That's one. And secondly, their first ever World Cup goal against Germany was a treat to watch. That's my favorite highlights from the Blue Waves. I wish they had won a game in this competition, but a draw, just like how Trinidad did it against Sweden, I would take that any day. It's better than a win or a defeat. That's a wrap for the afternoon session, and it did remind us that no match at this year's FIFA World Cup is easy, and every point matters all the way till the final whistle. And as I said on social media a couple of times during this campaign, watch out for those African and Asian teams because they can cause a lot of surprises. We have seen that already with Morocco holding Brazil to a draw. We've seen it with Congo holding Portugal, and even Cape Verde. They hold two teams so far in this competition, Uruguay and what was this other team? I forget the name. But nevertheless, watch out for these African nations because they can go a long way and surprise you all the way till the very end. So that's all the time I have for this episode. I'll be back later to look back at the evening and the night session at the World Cup. Plus, I'll also be reviewing the New Zealand versus England third test match from Trent Bridge in Nottingham, day one, and also the West Indies versus Sri Lanka first test, day one, over at the Sir Viv Richards Stadium in North South Antigua. So stay tuned for that. And yet still we have not gotten a single word on overseas signings for the CPL. CPL, do your job and announce the overseas signings or the franchises. But nevertheless, that's all for now. My content creating time is over, but yours is just the start of it. Till then, folks, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Bye-bye for now, and CPL, do your job. Big up Ecuador, big up Curaçao.